Hey, what's up, team? Eddie Gray here. We're back at it again. We're here to work at HF Music Academy. We're currently holding a challenge, and so the name of the game is to essentially show folks how to get it done. What does it look like? You know, how do you build it? How do you build it? And so I just thought rather than talking about it, rather than preparing these fancy little videos, right? Rather than rehearsing everything and having it be all, kosher, I figured we could just go impromptu, just it is what it is, come as you are. If it's got warts on it, fine. If it doesn't smell good, fine. The point is that we work at it and we get better over time. So let's go ahead, let's get right back in it. Pretty sure you should be able to hear what I'm up to here. So let's rock and roll. Let me just make sure playback is rocking here. All right, I'm pretty sure you can hear that, but just to be sure. Yeah, okay. All right. So, I've had a busy day, been active. Woke up this morning, I studied really deep into Melodyne right now. And so that being the case, um, I have to kind of listen to this over again, get a point of reference. I've got some notes that I added yesterday, and so that's where I'm going to go to first. But first is just like a preliminary listen. Let's just see what's available. Let's see what's in front of us. Okay. Liking the direction. It's feeling pretty good. The only part that I'm unsure of, which was purely experimental, was this, tripped out hi hat. I inserted a gate on it. It sounds like this right now. As you might have remembered from the first video, I used an LFO. I pitched it up and down. I think it's also panning. And so, that could be kind of like just a tricky thing. Something about like the sample itself that I want to change. So let me just experiment with that now. If not, I'm going to the list. Okay, so it's probably a good idea to just copy the whole thing in general so I don't lose my work, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here, track number 10. That's the track stack. And I'm just going to click up here and hold command. So now we get the key command, new track with duplicate settings and content. And so what that's going to do, it's going to give me the initial track, but also the MIDI performance or audio, whatever kind of regions are populated. And so what this does is it gives me a chance to, to flex, try some stuff out. But if it doesn't work, I can go back to the old performance. So let me locate, I forgot which one. All right, this one right here. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to hit Y, open up the library. And then from here, I'm just going to look around. I mean, it's good practice to highlight the regions, hit Command U, make sure you have a cycle region so you don't have to keep moving back and forth. And let's just try out some different parts. Okay, so again, I don't exactly love the part, but I can see there being something there. And so let me just hear it together just for research purposes. Let me hear it isolated just for research purposes, and we'll go from there. So you see, I'm starting to hear the beginnings of something. It's just an idea. It's just fledgling. It's just starting to come out. But who knows? Could be something interesting. So here, I'll dictate which is which. Maybe create a nice blend. Just curious if I pan the low one over to the left. Again, still not sold on it. The approach now is to find the parts that I like, because there are some hi-hat patterns that sound interesting, and there are some that just don't work. So let's select both regions and hit P for the piano roll editor. Let's go into a micro view. So close the library, Y, close the inspector, I. I'll leave the project notes open just to remind me. And so what we're doing now, after we resize, is we're just trying to get in here and just figure out, okay, this works, this doesn't, and then we'll put it together. Here we go. All right, so everything up to that point works, so let's keep going. I can kind of see some stuff maybe be changing here. little bit of both, maybe. Okay, so maybe we'll go. I'll quantize the second half at 32, and then I'll quantize this at 16. Let's see if that works. Okay. Okay, same thing here. I'm gonna try and find something that works. That did not work. Let's keep listening. 16. So you see what I'm doing? I took the initial part and I'm changing the quantization value because remember I didn't write that in. I used Logic's drummer, and now I'm just playing with the possibilities. Right. So that would be a full sequence there. We could theoretically Command R, and that could be something. Well, usually when I start to struggle with something for longer than 5-10 minutes, it's usually a time, it's a signal that it's got to go. And so I don't think I'll be keeping this, but I know what I'm trying to accomplish, and so it's a good filler. But it's time to move on. So let's let me hear one last time, and then we'll start covering the list. Could also just have a really nice hi-hat pattern. Let's try out. Maybe let's try it in stereo. All right. I'm going to add these before I go to the bass. Sometimes, may sound, interesting or what have you, but I just get like, a vision of what it can be. I get, an idea. It kind of pops in my head, and you usually have to follow those whims. You got to follow the magic when it comes. So I'm going to record from Maschine, as you might have remembered. That is connected to my universal audio, so I'm just going direct, and so I'm just going to record that. It would sound, I think, really nice with the filter. I will do that in post. All right, so we botched the intro, but it was good enough to kind of get going. Let's work on that. Let's move this up. Okay, so all right, I'm gonna quantize this, make sure everything is right where it needs to be. Comes to drums, you definitely want to have all of your I's dotted, T's crossed. And so let's check this out. Yep. All right. I actually like the way that sequence came out. It was like improvisational in nature, but it worked. I may very well at some point, knowing me, come over here and start, going like just crazy metal Metallica here. Let's try it. We will see. I can always take that off, but I try and have fun with it. I try and add a little bit more than perhaps I may need. This is a drum, so let's color that red. All right. Let's get the subconscious organized, right? Make sure everything's clear. And so that's feeling good. It's looking good. My mind is curious. What if I take all this information and see what that sounds like? Well, you don't always know ahead of time. You may have good foresight, and even if you have good foresight, you're still going to have to try it out. Super happy about that. Stoked about it. Um, do me a favor. If you ever get to a point where you're not quite sure, remember that complexity is the enemy of good enough. So sometimes it's just good enough, and you just got to keep rolling. This could be something that you omit towards the end of the process, in which case you're better for it. You've learned something, you got more information, more research, so it's all good. Um, just see if there's anything else I can add from this construction kit here. What key was that? I forgot what key that was. Let me see. Ah. All right, yeah. So I might add something like that just for fun. Really like that. It sounds really fun. Okay, so there's that to consider. I still have this like hi-hat idea in the back of my head. And then of course we got to address that list, which was the original intention after all. But this is music, this is not dentistry, so just go for it, have fun. So then let's see. Let's see. All right, cool. All right, so yeah, I like the idea. I'm gonna record it just to lock it in. Sometimes the mind can be rather spacey, and so we just gotta make sure we record it. So let's get that on paper, and then we'll go from there. All right, Roger that. Here we go. All right, cool. So then, even if I didn't like the melodic choices, want to change some of those notes, no problem. We have technology, my good dog, my loyal servant, I would hope. And we can rock that. And so I'm gonna use Melodyne. If you don't know, Melodyne 5 just came out, and it is an absolute savage of a program. Let's see if it picks up my note information. Yeah, you know what? I've noticed that the new version of Melodyne, ARA gets a little funky sometimes. It's supposed to record it right into it without you doing anything. Not sure why mine is not translating. Regardless, let's actually just record the performance in. Where are you? Hold on, right here. All right, so let me just track that in just so I have it. Roger that. You could do a lot of things in here. It's something that maybe I'll cover the next session, come tomorrow or the next day. But for now, in fact, let's jot that down. This list gets kind of long sometimes. Melodyne. All right, so let's see here. Before I add the bass, I was thinking of a hi-hat. Could be a ride too, the low latency mode. Okay. I just thought of this pattern. Thought it would sound good. Quantize. Let's check it out. Okay, and then now I'm I'm obviously in the experimental phase. If you guys haven't gotten the memo on that, so basically now I'm gonna try and find a ride. All right, something that sounds interesting. Where is the ride? Here. This is B4. I'm looking at the octave range up here, and so you can see I'm in the third register. Let's go up one octave. We should find it somewhere. All right, let's see what this sounds like. So I want to hear the idea in various ways, right? We have to just open up and see what actually works, not in theory but in action. So let's check it out. Yeah, I'll tell you what, I really don't mind that. I'm going to keep both of the MIDI, and I'm going to use a track alternative. I think we talked about that the last time around, so no need to bring it up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this. I'm going to use this region, and I'm going to create another pattern. So rather than playing on every quarter note, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Rather than playing on every single quarter note, I'm going to play on every other one. So it's 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. There could be some clever ways of trying to do this. Let's see. Let's experiment. Doesn't always work, but we'll control click and we'll tell Logic, can you not follow every single note, but can you select the same sub position? And actually that works. So fantastic. And then I'll do the same thing with the third note. Is I'll say, can you select every sub position? Hey, that works too. Hey, there you go. All right, let's check it out. one last one here. Let's see. Maybe one more crash right here. For now, that at least gives me the indicator of what I'm trying to do. See, I feel like too many people get caught up in sounding perfect and honestly and just trying to figure it out all at once. You know, you don't have to know every single thing. And so I'm gonna wrap up here. Let me just get the bass in because I said that's what I was gonna do, and then of course the monkey mind took over, right? Yeah, if you guys ever have any questions, just hit me on that chat and I'll get you guys going. But the point is to be creative, you know, be consistent. If you think this is going to happen because you spend all day on askvideo.com or Groove 3 or YouTube, it's not. You know, it's funny. Like I'm telling people, you know, hey, it's not going to happen by doing this and just being with me and watching me. You have to go out there and get it. It's the only way. You have to make sure that you get your time in. I'm getting my time in, and I'm making this available to members of hfmusicacademy.com. I want them to feel inspired. You know, we have this 45-day challenge right now, and I want them to see what it looks like. This is what we do. This is how we're getting it in. I'm working here. I've got Robert, my assistant, in the other room. He's doing his thing. He's drafting up some tracks, and that's how you do it. There really is no secret. There is no plug-in. You just have to make sure that you get yours. You affirm and you claim your space and you make it happen because it's your choice. All right. So bass. I don't know if I want the typical 808. I know for sure that I can just track, you know, a regular, you know, 4 or 5 string bass. I mean, I think that at least out of the gate can sound interesting. So we're going to play with that. Actually, let me type in. So let's just get a bass going. Sometimes I'll fish in here just for kicks, and I'll look at some of my user patches, and I'll look at like, okay, here's some basses that I think are interesting. For right now, let's just track it, and then maybe we can experiment later. So this is one of my favorite basses. In fact, it is my favorite software instrument bass. It's called Cherry Electric Bass. Composer named Devin Norris introduced it to me, and I thought it was fire. I thought it just sounded remarkable, really realistic, beautiful plugin. So here, let's check that out. Probably the best in the market, better than anything that I've heard from Native Instruments, or just a wonderful sound. Let's see, did I? Oh, wait a minute, did I replace? Uh-oh. All right, I replaced my hi-hats and such. Here, we'll do it this way. Got to be clever with the flow. All right, so here's my bass. I don't need that there. And then here we'll go back to massive. Here we go. Okay, so I think we're back to normal. I got to delete this guy. I just got this drum set recommended by a friend. Super beautiful drum set. I want to check that out later. All right, so let's play some bass. All right, so I'll just go with that general idea. So I'm hitting octaves, right? Just following the progression and then going down a whole tone. Back up. I hit it again to stay in the progression. Then when we get that extension in the chord, then I'm gonna go up. It's pretty basic. Let me start here. Metronome on. And you know what? I'll just rock with input quantize. Why? Because it's the bass and I want it to be locked into time. So here we go. Oh, nice. Okay, cool. All right, so then the editing begins, right? The left brain starts to take over. Let's make sure everything looks good, everything sounds good. Pretty sure that one is off. Good. All right, so remember, even though you're using input quantize, what is input quantize? It means that rather than having to record the MIDI and then quantize after the fact, you no longer have to do that. You can quantize in the region inspector in Logic before you even begin, okay? And then rather than you having to quantize after, double click the region, hit Command A, hit Q, you don't have to do that anymore because everything is being quantized in real time. Here, check it out. All right, it sounded pretty good, man. I'm really happy with that. The last thing I'll say before I get out of here is honestly, don't complicate it. Notice that I didn't choose, the most I don't know, unique sounding bass. I chose something that I knew would translate because what are we trying to do, guys? What's the whole point of this game? We're trying to distribute frequencies from 20 hertz all the way up to 20,000 or 20K. And so if you're using a lot of complicated material, sound sources, subject material, what's going to happen is that you're going to muddy up the mix. I'm not saying not to do it. What I'm saying is write the song, make sure it can stand on its own. It's kind of like that old saying, if you can play a guitar, if you can sing a song with just a guitar and a singer, then it's a good song and it can stand on its own 2 feet without any production, without any mixing, and it can stand on its own 2 feet. And so that's kind of the idea here is you don't have to get it all down perfect. Just get the skeletal structure. And I've been doing this live. This is not rehearsed. I'm here to prove a point that anybody can do this work if you want to do it. You have to have some technical experience. Obviously, if you have musical experience, it's worth its weight in gold because you can. If you guys remember video 2, what did I do in video 2? I was able to figure out the piano line, the chord progression from my loop that I gathered from Novation, the Launchpad app. What's it called again? I think it's called Launchpad. I forget. Watch video 1 for it, but here, check it out. And so those things are really beautiful, but in context, unless you do something to them and change the dynamics, what's going to happen is that it just becomes rather stale, right? You can't listen to that for 5 minutes straight. And so just by adding a simple piano line underneath, and I'm planning on making this a bit more, extemporaneous and moving, a little bit out of the box. But here, check it out. All right, great. All right, well, thank you for your time. Appreciate you guys coming through. Next time when I see you should be tomorrow. We're gonna add longer decays for the piano. Maybe we're gonna add a delay to it as well. Maybe add some guitar. I'm not sure if it's gonna be a software instrument. Probably is. I like to stay in the box. Um, but if we need something more organic and visceral, we'll definitely use a guitar. Definitely need to put some ear candy, some risers, some transitions in there. I really want to use some strings with a like a filter cutoff. I'll be using the modulation wheel for that, so stay tuned for that. And then, of course, I've got this melody, which right now is not much, but I would imagine, based on my experience, that if I work on it enough, put a bunch of reverb, uh, compress it so that every single note plays the same, that this is going to be a nice tune. So hopefully you're appreciating what we're doing here, what we're up to. If you want to check us out and you want to kind of feel the love a little bit more, go to hfmusicacademy.com. Thank you for being here at In the Mix with Eddie Gray. Have yourself a happy Sunday and cheers. Later. Yo, Robert, come on out.